So welcome to Hodge Close Quarry. It's about 200 years old and lies right in the centre of the Lake District. And this has been my old stomping ground for about 30-40 years now. My dad brought us here when I was a kid. I've made 2 or 3 films here. I've been camping here. I even came to a rave once on this exact spot that I'm walking across years and years and years ago. God knows how long ago. And I love this place. It's beautiful, picturesque, it's remote. Not many other people know about it, or if they do, they don't know its little hidden corners that I like to escape to. And today we're off on a geo-hunt. You've heard of geocaching? Well, this is the same thing, but with people. Last night, before I set off on this journey, I gave Ted the coordinates for my destination on a GPS. And said I will be here about 12:30 if you want to meet up. So I set off early in the morning, about 8 or 9 o'clock, and got there about 9:30, 10, and he's going to arrive at about 11 or 12 and make his way to the same location. Now there is no phone signal around here, so it is literally a case of setting off and hoping that we eventually meet up. So let's see how far we get. Well, there's no sign of him yet. He hasn't caught up with me just yet. He's somewhere back there behind me, but I know not where. By this point, I haven't seen anybody on the entire journey so far, so it is getting more and more remote as I kind of weave through this forest and attempt to pick my way through the occasional rocky patches and clumps of trees. But eventually we make it to this little campsite that somebody built, no, I didn't do this, where I decided to set up camp and wait for Ted. Now this surprised me when I saw this. I saw a bunch of birds kind of wheeling through the sky and it looked like they were dogfighting with each other. I don't have a zoom on this camera, so I just kind of set it up and let it film for a while. But if you actually watch these crows darting around each other, I presume it's some kind of mating dance. I know that starlings do that in order to find the most agile mate. They kind of dogfight with each other and get those great clouds of murmuring starlings across the coastlines. But I've never seen crows do it. I mean, I'm not an animal expert by any means, but you can see them kind of swooping in a big gang, and even more kind of flocked to join them as this progressed. So enjoy. So after a while I decided to move to a slightly better location where I wasn't getting as much wind and as much rain. So I sat up in between these two trees, had a bit more cover, and was gently dozing off to sleep as the sunshine came through and kind of sprinkled through the canopy above me, and I was gently dozing off to sleep happily when way in the distance that I could hear in the direction the camera's looking, it sounded like somebody was scrambling over broken rocks and slate. So I thought, okay, that might be Ted, because I haven't seen anybody still by this point. I hope it is, because I'm a bit cold by this point, and I knew Ted would probably have some hot chocolate with him. Yeah. See, he found me. We weren't sure if you were going to find us.
We found him.
Did the sat-nav work?
Yeah.
Did it actually lead you here?
Quite comfortable there.
Exceedingly. Would you like to sit down? So after Ted had arrived and replenished me with hot chocolate and a waterproof jacket, as I stupidly forgot mine. I mean, this place is called the Lake District. You can't have lakes without a bit of rain. We decided to set off a bit further into the forest. We found a number of these like stone huts that the miners used to work and live in. A few swampy, boggy areas. Neither of us have ever been to this area of Langdale. Now the battery on my camera started to die out, so I was limited to my phone, which you can see here. Look at that beard, isn't it magnificent? Now that beard needs sorting out, Burrow. Get it cut. Yeah, it definitely needs trim. That moustache looks really, really manky on here. Mind you, it's been raining and cold, so I had excuses. There's Ted using his new fancy GoPro camera to film things with, whilst I check what's behind us just to make sure the coast is clear, there's nobody sneaking up on us, no gooks in those bushes. So things were progressing quite nicely, and then Ted spotted a small tunnel, and we do like to explore these things just to make sure there's no lost treasure of Lantisley. Here we go, and you can actually see my blood on that rock as I smashed my head into the tunnel roof and cracked my head open. Basically, there's blood everywhere. Fantastic experience. There we go, that's me with blood on my head and a big hole in my head. Turned out alright though. We eventually made it down to the cathedral cave. This is the, as you see, it's a gigantic hole in the ground with this big pillar of rock that holds up the roof, before trundling our way back to the cars. It was a fantastic day out for everybody. So thanks for watching, and now for your amusement, some outtakes. Now after a while I decided to move to a bit of a more sheltered location, so I set up my hammock in between these two trees where it wasn't raining as much and the wind wasn't as much wind, and I started to hear a noise in the distance. It sounded like somebody clambering across like broken slates and rocks, and oh my god, will the cars in my street fucking shut up? So after a bit of the time I decided to move and set up in a different location where it wasn't as windy and I had a bit of shelter from the rain, and I was starting to doze off in my hammock. I was quite happy here when the sun started to sprinkle through the tree canopy above me, and I made a perception roll and heard somebody in the distance. It sounded like somebody was travelling over broken rocks and slate, and I hadn't seen anybody all day by this point, so I was quite astounded when I heard the I can't fake it now.